Hi, everyone. Just want to send out what might be, what probably is, the last video of the school year. I'm standing inside the gymnasium, the old one, so you might hear a little bit of an echo. But if you want to even get a little look here, I'll see if I can let you know what's going on here a little bit. All right. Pretty much stripped the place right down to the studs. There's no power for the lights in here, so I'm going to kind of talk quick. I would imagine it's going to get dark before we know it, but even up into the ceiling here, all the rafters and all are exposed. So the new library, we should start seeing some progress very shortly. Somebody asked me if the floor was ripped up. It's not. There's just a covering over it, and the original wood floor will remain. So making some good progress here with the construction now that things are back in the swing of things, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get this project done closer to the fall. Everything I seem to hear right now is more like November 1st, but every day that goes by, the construction guys let out a little bit of information, and they think the fitness center might be done by September. They're even hinting at the cafeteria. So those are positive pieces of information. Anyway, let me try to make this as quick as I can, because I know you guys are anxious to probably end the school year after, I think this is week 15. I've actually lost count. I don't know where we really are here, but we're probably around 60 days of this distance learning, if you can believe it's been that many days. So just a couple of things I have written down here. Number one, I want to let you know that the budget vote today, the budget passed 72%. We had about 382 absentee ballots that were cast. We had a couple of them were void or invalid because they weren't filed the proper way. But last year, Tammy told me we had about 392 people actually come and vote. So interesting that absentee versus in-person balloting, almost the same. The results, though, seem to be a little bit higher, up in that nice 70% range. So just want to say a special thank you to Tammy Cavanaugh for everything she did to learn on the fly with this absentee ballot executive order that she had to deal with, and all of the questions that had to be fielded pretty much on a daily basis. So once again, we had to deal with distance learning on the fly with no real preparation, no real professional development, and here we have Tammy having to do the same thing with the absentee ballots. So great job. Had a bunch of volunteers, probably upwards of 10 people tonight assist Tammy counting those ballots, and seems to be a pretty big success rate as well across the East End from the other superintendents that we're hearing from. So all good news, all right? But I just wanted to go down some of the things here. So I do want to say thank you, and I really mean this, to each and every one of you for everything that you've done on a personal level, for everything you've done on a professional level, to help the students, to help the families, the parents, the siblings, and even the help I think that you've given each other as colleagues. I think the amount of information, the amount of knowledge that has been learned and has actually been communicated has just been an amazing amount. I don't even know, how to say it any better than that. But, like I said before, we did this with zero preparation, zero professional development, and just given to us in our laps, told to figure it out. And I really feel that each and every one of you, in your own way, in your own professional way, as educators, And even not so much as educators, even everyone on the non-instructional staff, the way we had to be creative with office hours here, the way we had to try to work with each other, with this whole social distancing, facial coverings, just so that people felt comfortable, as best we could make this place. The construction, what happened with the shutdown and the start, even the custodial staff, everybody has been amazing. The administrative staff, what they've done to try to be there and provide support. I really feel, Bridgehampton is a family. And when they say it takes a village, well, I think the village of Bridgehampton came together, and we definitely made it happen. And I think we should all be very, very proud of what you did. I was walking out in the parking lot after the vote. One of our teachers was just showing me video that came and pictures that came from a mom, just showing me, what the kids were doing today, 2 days before school is going to end. And it's just great to see things like that. It really is, because we did what we typically do here, and that is, we made it work. And we made it work better, I think, than anybody could have ever imagined. So without saying too much more to that, I think everybody give yourself a great pat on the back. And I can't answer the question what September is going to look like. You guys know just as much information as I do. Unfortunately, we have the governor who really is telling us what to do, and when he knows, he communicates it at once to the public. He doesn't really go through the state education department. He just comes right out and says it, and we typically have to figure out how to make those executive orders work as best we can and in accordance with the guidelines. So with that said, just going to run down a few things. We've got the pre-K graduation coming up on Friday, June 26th. I believe that's 9 o'clock in the morning. It'll be in person. We're subject to that 150-person total gathering, so between Mr. Miller, Mr. Cox, Dr. Ralston, Ms. Stiles, and I, we're trying to work those details out and hopefully make those ceremonies memorable. Matter of fact, about 2 hours ago, we just got guidance from the New York State Department of Health as to what those graduation ceremonies can actually look like in terms of officially hearing that we're allowed to put tents or canopies up for people. We're allowed to open up the bathrooms. However, we have to keep the use, kind of restricted. We've got to have certain signs up for social distancing. So, we get little bits of clarification as the time goes by, and it helps us to try to prepare a little better. So we've got that. The meals are going to continue. We actually applied to New York State, to the Office of Child Nutrition, to be an authorized summer meal provider for the students. So we'll be offering those care packages once a week on Friday. It's becoming more and more difficult at the school because the entire parking lot is going to be ripped up in the next few days. So last week we had to distribute those meals literally on Montauk Highway on the shoulder of the road. The volunteers did a great job getting it out from the music science building, the kitchen. We had to move everything from the main building over to that kitchen and literally with the pickup truck bring it all out to the street to be able to distribute it. So we're still helping around 50, 55 families on a weekly basis. Translates, close to 90, upwards of 100 students as well. So it is benefiting people, and I'm glad we'll be able to continue it at least through the end of August. Construction project, as I touched on a little bit, it's in full force right now. I mean, there are workers everywhere here. From down in the basement, dismantling the boilers, into each classroom, ripping out radiators, ripping out the fresh air univents. We've got guys running cables, pipes are being run. It's just organized chaos. But we got Mr. Chuck Quinn helping us out, and he seems to be keeping us abreast of what's going on so that we're not tripping over each other. And the only other thing I've got here is September. All right, a lot of you are asking about September and what that's going to look like. I try to keep my eyes and ears open with other superintendents, and in particular with school districts up Island, some of the bigger districts. I'm using them more or less as examples. You know, if they have to do something, Sachem, Brentwood, Smithtown, where you're talking, over 5,000, Brentwood 20,000 students, how are they going to bring these kids back to school to practice this safe social distancing and the hygiene and all? So I can tell you this, transportation is going to be huge, because that is going to be the one component of this logistical scenario to get the kids actually back to the school. Right, that's actually the first step. So we've got to answer a few things, which is, which guidance do we follow? Do we follow federal guidance, which is the Center for Disease Control? Do we follow state guidance, which is the Health Department, the State Education Department? Do we follow local guidance, which is the Suffolk County Health Department? It seems to be conflicting sometimes as to who is the authorized body that tells us what to do. But right now, as I speak, if we follow the Center for Disease Control in their guidance on transportation in school buses, their guidance is calling for, if you can imagine a school bus with a capacity of 66 students, they are calling for, on the right side of a bus where you have the rows going back, one student in a seat every other row, okay, going all the way back. The other part of that guidance is the seat that's directly across from where a student is sitting is not to have any student in it. So if you just use that as an example, anywhere from about 11 to a maximum of 15 students would be on a bus. So that's 25% capacity. It's going to be awfully difficult to get students back to school when you technically have to run 4 bus routes just for what used to be one bus route. There's going to be a tremendous expense involved, and there's going to be time. How do you start those bus runs so early in the morning if you don't have the number of buses? So I don't even know what type of protective personal equipment has to be on the bus. All right, do we have to, do the buses have to be set up with some kind of a shield for the bus driver? Do we have to take students' temperatures when they get on the bus? Lots of unknowns right now. But I would think that question has to be answered first before we can really tackle how the kids are going to come into the building. Are we going to then have to take students' temperatures in the building? Are we going to have to hand out disposable masks every single day? I heard from Connecticut School District recently that they figured if every student and every staff member came to school every day, their cost would be $6,000 a week just in disposable masks. So, there's a cost factor here that's got to be accounted for as well. So, as we get guidance, we will try to evaluate possibly 3 scenarios, which might be a 100% remote learning, possibly to start off the year if that's the case. And that's could be contingent upon, if we get this second wave of the virus, where we might have to retreat from the 4 phases that the governor has spelled out. The other thing would be a blended or a modified approach. Maybe, even an A and B day here might not work. If you're talking 25% capacity, even in a classroom, we might struggle with that. So, and the third option would be, if we're allowed to come back 100% with the students. So I also want to acknowledge, each of you, all right? You have your concerns, you have your sensitivity to hygiene, to health, and we have to acknowledge that. And there are certain protocols that the state is spelling out that we have to follow. So a lot of different variables here, and I'm sure we will do what we do best, and that is we will make it work. Another concern that I have is the cafeteria. How do we even let kids go in there? Right now, you can't even go into a restaurant. You've got to sit outside. So if that's the scenario, we might be preparing food inside of a cafeteria and maybe bringing it into the classrooms. Who knows what that's going to look like, or what we're going to be faced with. So let me end on this note, and that is to once again just say thank you. I appreciate everything that every one of you have done. We may not have communicated, all of us. Many of us, we've communicated more than we probably cared to. Some of you have been here literally on a daily basis, and it's as if we never left each other. But whatever worked for you guys, whatever worked for the district, I can tell you right now it was a success. And I don't think you get 72% of the voters in a community who turn out with a positive feeling about the school if we weren't doing it right. So congratulations, and I wish you the best of the summer. Enjoy it. You certainly all deserve it. Many of us will be working 12 months, okay? So we will be taking our vacations sporadically throughout the summer, but we will be here in full force, listening to the governor, listening to the state education department, the health departments, in terms of how we're going to get the school ready. And even with the new construction, things are still up in the air. But I'm optimistic, and I think we'll be ready to go in September. So take it easy, all right? Relax, enjoy, and we'll be in touch.